Hello, everybody. My name is Africa Pardavila from Innovarum. I'm marketing and communications responsible. And today I'm here hosting this policy influence event with my colleague Inigo, who you will meet later in the discussion process. This event is going to talk about policy influence. Circular economy and bioeconomy are central to the European Green Deal, but still, a number of regulatory issues hamper the development of innovative solutions, slowing the uptake of urban bioeconomy. This governor will discuss the most pressing issues with testimonies from business and the government. Here, I want to point that this webinar is part of a whole series that has been running from May to June 2021, and that has counted with the participation of 4 projects, Excalibur, Hoop, Valley Waste, and Waste Up. And mainly it has been organized by Hoop. So thank you so much for your work here. As you can see, these are the titles that we have been covering. We have been talking about selective collection of urban biowaste, stakeholder engagement, technologies for biowaste valorization, new business models, safety acceptance of bio-based products, and now we are coming finally to the last event of the series, talking about policy influence. Well, but before we start, let's do some basic housekeeping so everybody knows what is happening and how to participate here in this webinar. So the webinar is being recorded. Both recordings of the slides will be circulated to all registered participants, so you will be able to review anything you have questions about. Attendees are in listening only mode, but please send us your questions via the Q&A module, which is usually at the bottom of the screen in a Q&A button. You will be able to see, you can write there your questions, and don't be shy, we will be happy to answer. Finally, you can also upvote questions from fellow attendees. This way we make sure we answer the most popular questions. Okay, this is it in regards to the introduction, and we are going to start with the first speaker we have for the event, who is Silvia Maldadiati, who is a policy officer on urban and regional circular bioeconomy, waste, energy, and climate at European Commission, DG Research and Innovation. So Silvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, and thank you for this invitation to this very complex and interesting, topic. So say that yes, today we will touch upon some points on the circular economy policies, but maybe mostly on the upcoming R&I initiatives, which indeed are linked to the policies and should respond to policies, or in some cases also the drive policy itself. So next slide, please. Yeah, about the policy context, of course, let's start with the Green Deal, which is an integral part of the Commission strategy to implement the United Nations 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, of course, as well as the other priority of the Commission, to transform the EU into a modern, resource-efficient and competitive economy. And also ensuring, of course, climate neutrality by 2050, economic growth decoupled from resource use, and no person and no place left behind. The areas of intervention are many, covered by different corresponding policy initiatives, among which, next slide, please, the Circular Economy Initiative. The Circular Economy Communication and Action Plan are very relevant for the purpose of this workshop. In fact, the communication calls the Commission to ensure the sustainability of renewable bio-based materials, including more sustainable applications of nutrients, for instance, and stronger markets for recovered nutrients, for example, also through the integrated nutrient management plan. The communication envisages also cross-cutting actions promoting circularity in industrial processes in the context of the review of the Industrial Emission Directive, and supporting the sustainable and circular bio-based sector through the implementation of the Bioeconomy Action Plan. Also, the Circular Economy Action Plan includes specific actions on the waste reduction target for specific streams and other measures on waste prevention by next year, a policy framework for the bio-based product, plastic products and biodegradable or compostable plastics, originally planned for 21, but then postponed to 22, and scoping the development of further EU-wide end-of-waste and byproduct criteria. Next slide, please. So still underpinned by European Green Deal directly are the European Green Deal goals published last year, among which the one on a demonstration of systemic solutions for the territorial deployment of the circular economy, which is of interest of this workshop. In fact, this call is connected with a more general approach of circularity delivered at territorial level, where cities and regions are key, the so-called Circular Cities and Regions Initiative. The initiative takes inspiration from the growing number of cities and regions that have really drawn up action plans and are actively testing and improving circularity in their economic sectors, value chains, and services. The idea is that innovative systemic solutions for transitioning towards a circular economy at urban and regional level still need to be demonstrated and replicated effectively everywhere in the EU. The challenge is to expand circularity beyond traditional resource recovery of waste in waste and waste sectors, and make circular solutions sustainable, regenerative, inclusive, and just at the end. So several research and innovation projects and initiatives are helping and will help to improve circularity in local systems and economies. In fact, under this CCRI, the initiative, a tender to establish a coordination and support office has been launched recently, and some topics are present in the next Horizon Europe work program. Next slide, please. Another main policy initiative very relevant for the purpose of this workshop is the zero pollution ambition for a toxics-free environment expressed in the European Green Deal. This has led to the action plan towards a zero pollution air, water, and soil. The plan sets out the overarching vision that by 2050, pollution is reduced to levels no longer considered harmful to the human health and the natural ecosystems. And to achieve this, it defines a number of zero pollution targets for achieving this objective and reducing a lot of with different reduction of which, for instance, reducing by 50% nutrient losses, the use and the risk of chemical pesticides, the use of more hazardous ones, etc., and reducing significantly the total waste generation, and by 50% the residual municipal waste. Next slide, please. The plan also foresees reviews of relevant EU legislation, among which revising the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive and reviewing the majority of EU waste laws to adapt them to the clean and circular economy principles, including wastewater treatment and sewage sludge directives already announced in the circular economy communication. Next slide, please. Can you change the slide, please? Yeah, thank you. So, no, too fast. Of course, as I work in the DG Research and Innovation, I would like to tell you on how the European research area has reacted to this context and is reacting to this context. So as Horizon Europe has been recently adopted, let's talk about the Horizon Europe. The whole program will last 7 years from 21 on, as you know, and its structure shows 3 pillars. Pillar 1 on excellent science, Pillar 2 on global challenges, and pillar 3, innovative Europe. The second pillar aims at delivering on green and digital goals and strengthening the European competitiveness and also global leadership. And it is structured in 6 clusters as shown in the scheme. Next slide, please. So let me briefly explain how the intervention logic of Horizon Europe works. It consists in developing first a strategic plan at the broad top level based on new policy priorities to which Horizon Europe will reply through sets of expected impacts from all 6 clusters. The work program is then developed at the level of each cluster in order to meet the expected impacts, delivering outcomes from the projects funded. As you see, at the level of cluster before topics, there are destinations with specific intervention areas and specific expected impacts, and including so the overall rationale for the choice of the topics covered under the cluster. Next slide, please. So the strategic plan 21-24, because it has been drafted for the first 4 years, shows 4 key strategic orientations and corresponding impact areas that you see on the slide. Relevant for the challenges discussed today are mainly the strategic orientation on restoring Europe's ecosystems and biodiversity and managing sustainably natural resources, with impact area on clean and healthy air, water, and soil. And secondly, the orientation towards making Europe the first digitally enabled, circular, climate neutral, and sustainable economy, etc., with impact towards circular and clean economy. Next slide, please. So these key orientations are developed in 2 cluster in cluster 6 on food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, environment. Of course, not only in this cluster, but say we should focus on that, because this will contribute within its expected impact on sustainable and circular management and use of natural resources, as well as prevention and removal of pollution, where intervention areas concerned are the bio-based innovation systems and circular systems, with another powerful tool still under Horizon Europe that will be the institutionalized partnership called Circular Bio-based Europe, a partnership between the Commission and a bio-based industry consortium that will be launched very soon. Next slide, please. Here I have reported the full expected impact of cluster 6, where you see that there are many keywords. So the sustainable and circular management and use of natural resources is there. Bioeconomy is there. But of course, the removal also of pollution to guarantee healthy soil, air, fresh and marine water for all. The topics developed in the, say, to address these expected impact and that can be of some interest for this workshop today are the ones developed in the 2 destinations, circular economy and bioeconomy sectors and zero pollution destination. Next slide, please. So about circular economy and bioeconomy sectors, I would like to describe this destination as targeting climate neutral, circular and bioeconomy transitions, as the title also say clearly explains. So covering safe, integrated circular solution at territorial and sectoral levels, both. So both for important material flows and important say local and territorial, regional and urban environments. And but also bio-based systems and the sustainable bio-based systems where the cascading use of resources is, say, the core of circularity of these sectors. So under this destination, topics cover areas such as indicators and methods for measuring CA transition, analysis of circular value chains, life cycle information database, circular cities and regions initiative, circular material streams, novel feedstock and bio-based innovation. Next slide, please. The destination zero pollution seeks to halt and prevent pollution, of course, by focusing the work program 21-22 on fresh and marine waters, soils, air, including from pollution from nitrogen and phosphorus emissions, as well as on the environmental performances and sustainability of processes in the bio-based system. So topics cover areas aiming at expected impacts such as a systemic approach to limit NNP emissions from different sources, for example, to the deployment of alternative fertilizing products, and secondly, circular bio-based systems, including biotechnology, to deliver safe and more sustainable bio-based products, and assessment and certification of their impacts. Next slide, please. The other instrument that I have talked about, the CBE partnership, combines the approaches of the circular and the bio-based economy, following the principle of the trias biological. So first, decarbonize the economy, thus minimize the carbon need and footprint. Secondly, supply the remaining carbon need from sustainably produced bioresources. And thirdly, minimize impact and maximize efficiency through the use of cascading for all carbon resources, avoiding all harmful emissions. Next slide, please. And finally, Horizon Europe is complemented by missions. The EU missions are commitments to solve some of the greatest challenges facing our world, like fighting cancer, adapting to climate change, etc. And they are an integral part of the Horizon Europe framework program beginning this year. Each mission will operate as a portfolio of actions such as research projects, policy measures, and even legislative initiatives to achieve a measurable goal that could not be achieved through single and individual actions. Potentially linked to the scope of the workshop is the mission on climate neutral and smart cities. In fact, cities and metropolitan areas are a center of economic activity, knowledge generation, innovation, etc. But also they are major contributors to global challenges. So next slide, please. I close here, reminding you the info days where all topics from Horizon Europe will be presented and the audience will be allowed for asking questions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Silvia, for your presentation. It was really interesting. We will be aware of these info days to know all the news in this new framework program. Now I remember to the audience that it's time for, we have like two minutes for a couple of questions. Yeah, my colleague didn't introduce me before. I'm Íñigo Rodilla from Innovarum. I'm also one of the hosts together with my colleague Africa. So what I was saying, just remember to set your questions at any moment during the event on the question and answer module you have available on Zoom, and we will show your questions. If not, we at the end of after all the presentations we have a 20-minute session to discuss with the opponents, with the speakers, and between each other, and answering your questions. If it is not, thank you, Silvia, for your presentation. We will have later some discussion about the topics you mentioned. And now I think it's time for Giulio Poggiaroni from Eubia. Giulio, good morning.
Yes, I will share my screen. So let me know if you see it.
We can see it, Giulio. Just if you can like set it in full screen mode.
Yeah,
perfect.
Should be. Okay, good morning. I'm Giulio Poggiaroni from Eubia, work as project manager at EUBIA, and EUBIA is a partner of the Value Waste project, one of those cooperating with Hope in the organization of this webinar series. And today I will be talking about the Roots initiative and its connection, of course, with policies and regulatory issues. So Roots, it's the collaboration of the 4 projects: Hoops, Calibre, Waste Up, and Value Waste. This started at the end of last year, mainly because we were all working on similar deliverables relative to regulatory issues, analysis of regulatory issues and barriers towards the uptake of the value chains that we are developing in our projects. So we came together discussing the similar issues and problems we have found, and we launched this cooperation that ended up in the release of a policy paper, a joint policy paper addressing some key points that I will introduce to you very soon. So the Roots, our group, we decided to call our group Roots, and its aim is to promote innovative solution for the European circular economy and identifying the regulatory barriers that are still blocking a more sustainable future supported by this kind of new value chains. So we'll touch briefly upon the 4 projects that are forming this initiative. Of course, I encourage you to check the website of each project, in which you will find very detailed and very well presented information on how we are pushing forward our activities. So the projects are piloting new solutions to transform and let's valorize urban biowaste and wastewater into valuable products like feed, fertilizers, bioplastics, biopesticides, proteins, and bioethanol. Not all the projects cover all these. So you have, for instance, value waste focuses on feed, fertilizers, and also food ingredients, while for instance Waste Up has the bioethanol component and so on. So I encourage you to see which project does what. But in overall, we are all dealing with the valorization of urban biowaste. So, as I said, we discussed the policy issues and barriers that, in our opinion, coming from the analysis we carried out independently and lately jointly, we have identified 4 policy issues translated into recommendations that are available in the policy paper that you can download from the website of each project. So the first one refers to recycling targets and treatment plans. So we have identified that from January 2040, the biowaste collection will be mandatory in Europe, but there are still no mandatory targets for at the EU level. So there are also no reward mechanism for the collection and recycling of this material. So we think that setting such targets for the bio-waste could really provide a boost for the circular economy, and we recommend to develop new support mechanism for the bio-based treatment plants, which can also merge the value chains, so the recycling value chains, the value chains that are able to transform the bio-waste into valuable products. So this was the first one. Then moving to the second one, deals with the definitions, let's say, of waste and byproducts. We found out that there are some overlaps and inconsistencies in the definition of byproducts and waste in the current legislation. So our recommendation here is that products coming from bio-waste should have a more specific regulation or standardization procedure, allowing for multiple reuse, aligned with of course, with the principle of the circular economy. And this, in our idea, should obviously help to clarify the situation and provide a simplification for the whole framework supporting the circular economy. The third recommendation is relative to biopesticides. They are defined as low-risk plant protection products according to Regulation 1107. They, in fact, are defined as not containing substances of concern, being sufficiently active and not causing unnecessary pain and suffering to vertebrates to be controlled. So, however, they still face the same barriers as chemical pesticides. So this means that we have a renewable asset, also biodegradable, which cannot be fully exploited thanks to some specific barriers. So our suggestion here is to create a simplified regulatory framework for this kind of products and allowing a much wider commercialization. The fourth recommendation deals with the insects for animal feed. So as you may know, the insects are a great source of proteins, and using biowaste to grow and feed insects would really unlock a lot of economic opportunities. And in fact, this is also one of the value chains we are piloting in value waste, in particular feeding the insects with the digestate arising from the anaerobic digestion of the urban biowaste. So the idea is to increase the nowadays the insect for feed ingredients are only approved for aquaculture, and so in our idea this should be widened. The scope of this measure should be widened, so insects should be the ingredients for animal feed on a wider scale, so including poultry, pigs, and so on. And this would mean a lot of resource savings in terms of water, also energy used for the production of feeds. And so in this regard, the Roots initiative pledges for the revision of the regulations 767 2009 and 1069 2009, which are those relative to the commercialization of feed and use of feed. Then, having said that, a brief comment on the way ahead. So we published our policy paper, which have summarized in the previous slide. We published it in early June, and we have just started our activities. We will continue to work and study the regulatory barriers and promote the messages and recommendations I have just showed to you. We, of course, are going to provide also new and more detailed recommendations in the new in the coming months, and we will, of course, try to engage discussions with EU officials from the Commission, from the Parliament, also with the European Food and Safety Authority, and all the other stakeholders which have interest in the valorization of urban biowaste and in the circular economy in general. So stay tuned and check our next activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julio. Really good summarize of the challenges that we have when talking about policies and bio-waste use. Remember, now it's time for questions. We have a couple minutes if somebody has to set a question. If not, we will have later on a 20-minute session to discuss about the topic. Remember to set your questions on the question and answer module on Zoom, then in the bottom of your screens, and then you could set the question. If it is not, I think we could continue. with the next presentation. Thank you, Julio. We will talk later about I have some questions for you that we could discuss later. Now it's time for José Luis Cifuentes. José Luis, good
morning to everyone.
Good morning, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anay, the floor is yours. Let's go with your presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm going to share the screen. Know if you're, is it on the screen?
Perfect.
Can you go? Yeah,
perfect.
Okay, great. So, good morning to everyone. My name is José Luis Cifuentes, and I work for the City Council of Madrid in the Environmental Affairs Department, and dealing mainly with waste management. We are one of the partners of Excalibur project, and during this 10 minutes presentation, I will try to give you a hint of what is the bio-waste collection in Madrid, how is it going, what are our objectives, what is the circular economy related with this bio-waste super collection we are dealing, and some questions and challenges we think should be solved for the near future, in a short and medium term of the value chain of bio-waste in Spain and Europe, in our opinion. So first of all, in Madrid, we started with the bio-waste collection in 2017 in November. Now we did it in a 4-phase project. Now the city is completely gathering and collecting the bio-waste. That means in the system there are like 450,000 tons of bio-waste, and we are capturing more or less 50% of that quantity. The other 50% goes into the mixed waste fraction, which we think we will probably improve the collection of the bio-waste, trying to capture this other 50% that is in the mixed waste fraction. What we do with this bio-waste collection, we send it to anaerobic digestion, where we do upper treatment in one of the facilities the Madrid City Council has in the Valdomingo Technology Park. And we produce 2 main products with this, which one is biogas, which we transform into biomethane. And I will explain to you one project we have been working the last year for to make circular this transformation of matter into energy and the return back to the city. And we obtain a digestate also that we mixed with green debris in order to produce a high quality compost. This is the second year we are being produced. Sorry, 2021 is the 3rd year with this compost production ongoing, and in 2020 we produced like 7,000 tons of this high quality compost, which we don't have a market for it, but it's there, okay? And we are trying to deal with it as best as we can. We also plan to produce, to build a new facility to deal with this huge quantity of digestate we are producing, treating this bio-waste fraction in order to produce in when this new facility will be at fully capacity, will be probably 35,000 tons of high quality compost. So if there is anyone there who wants to buy it, please let me know, because we have a huge challenge ahead of us. This is a summary of a citizen engagement campaign that we started to engage the citizens, just mainly related with this bio-waste fraction. Now we are capturing, or we are producing or collecting more than 700 tons per day of this bio-waste fraction. That means per year in 2021 we will reach probably 220,000 tons of this bio-waste fraction. The quality is well, not perfect, but enough for the processes we are dealing with. and this quality is improving thanks to these campaigns, these engagement campaigns, and our objective is to try to get this organic content of this biowaste fraction close to 95% in the household waste stream mainly. So this was the situation of this biowaste collection that we have in Madrid, and this I want to explain now to connect this status of the biowaste collection and management of this fraction with the circular economy vision we have in the city. We have 6 main working lines, which we are considering right now, and the main one is the one that I highlighted.
Hello, or apologize because seems like there is some technical issues. The connection of Jose Luis looks like it stopped. Jose Luis, can you hear us? Hello, Jose.
Sorry.
Looks
yes, back again. Back in track. Sorry.
No, don't worry.
I will go again. Let me a minute. Not my fault.
No, it was just like I still seeing your presentation, but we cannot hear you. So probably it was just a technical issue with the microphones.
Okay. Okay, can you see it now, and can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so as don't know what did you hear the last? The thing is that this center is we pretend to be a cluster, a hub for these circular economy intentions of the city, and to try to gather there all the projects and all the help on the boost we want to put and the power we want to put in promoting this circular economy, not only among the municipality, but also among the productive layer and the enterprises and the SMEs in the city. It will have a fab lab, as you can see, and several showrooms, and as I told you, it will start operating at the end of this year. Inside this hub, we want to develop these pilot projects mainly to change the culture of business models we have, trying to make them circular, and try to define support programs, and which is very important for us to establish. And I think Sylvia mentioned it in her presentation, to establish a circular economy key performance indicator system to try to monitor how is the circularity in this economy we pretend to be in the next years in the city. We also pretend to have in this center, we pretend to generate talent through 2 main actions, which is one is a master program that we are going to co-finance with the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, which is one of the biggest universities in Madrid, starting in September 2021 this year, and it will try to train professionals in the circular economy aspects to let them spread this circular economy culture among the companies and the enterprises and the productive sector in Madrid. Also, we try to attract talent, creating an international via online, and with a startup living lab. Also, which is more important for us, is a huge SMEs aid scheme, which is budget with 11 million euros for the next 2 years, and we will develop this program to help as those SMEs that want to change their mind and change to these circularity schemes in their activity and in their businesses. And we also try to raise European funds, and Excalibur is one of the examples. The Purple Insectum, those are another projects that we are also developing, and as not as partners, not being the city council as partners, but being related to and letting the installations being used to try the pilot projects inside our installations. And we also asked for Madrid City Council as a funding request to boost this next generation funds comes from the city, from the European Union in this COVID thing. This leads us, which we are developing right now, and is related with the bio-waste, and it makes real this circularity, which is what you have in your screens right now, which is a project we have been working for the last year, and we are using the bio-waste, the biogas, sorry, we are producing, dealing with the bio-waste in the anaerobic digestion facility we have to produce biomethane that is being used in the buses, in the public network, in the buses public network of Madrid. This is in collaboration with the MET, with EMT, which is the municipal transport enterprise of Madrid. And as you can imagine, Madrid is a huge city. We cannot move the whole fleet of buses with the biomethane we are producing, which is close to 9 million cubic meters per year. But we are going to move a whole line, which it consists, I think it has like 8 to 9 buses that are moving in a circular route around one area of Madrid. This is a project that is going to close the cycle. So the city is going to produce the waste, we are going to collect it, we are going to treat it, we are going to produce the biogas, we are going to treat the biogas to transform it into biomethane, and we are going to use this biomethane to fuel the buses in the city. So it's a circular economy just inside the city. And this is going to be by the end of this year, and probably it will be on for some years from now. And what we are doing right now, which we have been doing for at least 3 years, if I can recall my memory, is that we are feeding the public electric bikes of the city with the electricity, the energy we are producing using the leftovers in the incineration, the leftovers of the sorting processes of Valdemingo Technology Park in the incineration plant we have. And so all the bikes are carbon neutral in this case, and because they are being moved by this renewable energy or electricity, renewable electricity produced in the incineration process. And this is connected with the questions and challenges we have in our minds, and I want to rise up the general public so we see if we can just manage to have some answers, some good and smart answers to these. So the first one is to define a clear bio-waste value chain, which is it would be mandatory for what Julio has said in his presentation, which is the definition of the byproducts and the waste, and which is very important for us, for the cities. Why not having an EPR scheme for bio-waste? I think bio-waste is the orphan of all waste streams. Packaging has his EPR or its EPR schemes. Glass has its EPR scheme. Paper has its EPR scheme. Electronic and electrical waste has its EPR scheme. So why not bio-waste having an EPR scheme that could just order this value chain and the market and this secondary raw material market we are focusing on, we are facing. That is related with the definition of the end waste criteria, that we have, and the definition also of the compost, of the registered fertilizer as it is in the directive and in the national legislation we have in Spain. Why not also have a need of direct funds applied to the stakeholders of this value chain? And I mean municipalities. Municipalities need to be helped. We are the guys moving the steering wheel. We are the guys moving the engine, and if we want to achieve certain objectives, we are the ones connected with the reality. And if legislation and is not connected with reality, it will never work. These policies will never work. Also, in this vision, we need to go beyond the traditional way of seeing the meaning of recycling. And by this, I mean, is it necessary to transform the biowaste into compost, or is there something else? Can we go deep in trying to find building blocks for the industry that could add value to this recycling definition we have? Probably this is connected with this the need of a secondary raw material market for the biowaste byproducts, and as I mentioned, also the definition of the end waste criteria for biowaste. So let's see if the attendees can help us, and also the attendants and the speakers can also help us resolve or answer some of these questions. And thank you so much. And we will share some opportunity to exchange our views in these 20 minutes at the last of this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose Luis. Very interesting presentation. Even more for those like we are, like in Innovarum, that we are located in Madrid. So it's information that is very close to our reality. As you can see, the audience started to make some questions. We have 3 questions. We're going to solve just the first one made by Jan Stark. Maybe you could answer it. And we will save the other 2 for the discussion session on the last 20 minutes after the presentation of Ludwig. So Jan Stark's make a question is the biowaste treatment process in Madrid economically viable? What is the impact on waste management fees for citizens?
First question, no. Nothing is economically viable in the waste treatment processes. Nothing. It's very expensive, right? So if we have to see it from that point of view, I mean, we forget about this, right? First thing, that is very important. That is why we have to study waste. That is why I spoke about these building blocks. Why focus on biowaste to compost? Sorry. Why don't focus in other ways that can make this treatment economically viable? So that is a question I'm asking you, all the audience. And what is the impact on waste management fees for citizens? High. I mean, we can cover, we deal with 1.4 million tons of waste every year. This costs the city council, only the treatment, not the collection, only the treatment costs the city council goes close to 100 million euros, more or less. These are big numbers, right? And we selling energy, selling biofuels, selling these materials to the secondary raw material market, we can cover this treatment cost only by 45%. The rest of the money has to be put in taxes, right? Yeah. So, I mean, no viability from the point of view of the economy, of the finance.
That's good. We should understand that that is an initiative that already started like a few years ago. So now it's time to check the technical feasibility, and later on we will check if with these high added value products we could achieve an economically viable system. So we will continue with the 2 following questions in the discussion. Now, thank you, Jose Luis, for your presentation. And now it's
You're
time
welcome.
for Ludwig from the ESPP. Good morning, Ludwig.
Good morning.
Good morning. So the floor is yours. Let's go through your presentation.
You see my screen already?
We could see your PowerPoint edition now. Is when we are looking for, we can see your whole presentation. So the floor is yours. This is your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me invited to this interesting webinar. And I will present the urban circular bioeconomy policy from the perspective of the European Sustainable Phosphorus Platform. European Sustainable Phosphorus Platform is a legally established not-for-profit association. We are membership-based and membership-funded, and we have a very diverse membership structure from regions and cities. Madrid is unfortunately not our member, but Zurich, for example, in Switzerland, to technology companies, to R&D institutes, and also to the industries like the fertilizing products manufacturers. We do advocacy for phosphorus stewardship, and we find decisions by consensus. We do mediation rather than direct advocacy. We enable the dialogue between the stakeholders. We develop shared proposals, as you have done with the Roots initiative, and we communicate with regulators. And we have a very large communication base, some 60,000 email receivers that get our monthly e-news, and also in not so regular sequence scope newsletters. Many of you will know them. So why do we need this circular economy policy? I mean, I repeat, we have what some people, some scientists call the great acceleration. As you can see here, we have a huge growth in GDP, but also in the use of materials over the last, let's say, 100 years, but even more so over the last 60 to 80 years. We deteriorate our water quality and aquatic life, also obvious. And we consume and pollute more than our biosphere can tolerate. And we take particularly biodiversity, phosphorus and nitrogen, we transgress the planetary boundaries. So we have several problems, and the three mentioned ones are only part of the problems that we have to face, but we have also solutions. And we need a framework to detach impacts and material uses and energy uses from the economic growth. I know this is how should I say, among scientists, a more conservative position. We do not claim that we need to stop growth at all. This is an even more difficult transition, but at least what we need now is to detach the consumption, materials, energy consumption from economic growth and human welfare. So we can do this. For doing this, we need policies, and we have to account for externalities that are associated with environmental and climate impacts. We need policies to avoid waste and close material loops, as Jose Luis has just presented. We need agricultural and urban practices to avoid nutrient losses. We need nutrient recovery and recycling. And in short, we need a transition from a material-based to a service-based economy. And we cannot blame the European Commission that has really done a a tremendous amount of work and proposal, more or less since 2014 and 15, with the first circular economy package already, and now with the circular economy action plan, and 2019 with a totally new approach materialized in a new EU fertilizing products regulation. Fertilizing products regulation is a first piece of legislation that has built in an end of waste status for products that are compliant with the regulation. It is not an obligatory regulation. You can also produce and sell fertilizers within the national frameworks, and we get new products, new component materials within the next couple of weeks and months. Among them, the so-called strubias products that are essentially products derived from waste, from bio-waste, and we get also industrial byproducts and also animal byproducts regulated by this European fertilizing products regulation. We have policies, ongoing policies in regard to wastewater, like in response to increasing environmental pressure. We have seen a water framework directive, and unfortunately we have seen that our rivers and lakes did not improve much. We have also seen an urban wastewater treatment directive evaluation, and we currently have a sewage sludge directive evaluation. So within this new Green Deal framework and the Farm to Fork biodiversity chemical strategy and the Zero Pollution Action Plan and the Circular Economy Action Plan, we really review, not we, the Commission reviews and includes public consultation usually, the current legislation, regulations, directives for their effects, for their efficacy, and we will see a lot of new upcoming proposals. We see it already in the nutrients in food and agricultural policies. We had a revision of the organic farming regulations, and we will see new products being included. We have just recently, a bit disappointing, but not because of the proposal, because of the final conclusion by the Council, that not enough, from our point of view, attention and money is going to biodiversity enhancing measures and carbon sequestration measures in agriculture. We see a study on contaminants. We see new guidelines for marine fishing and aquaculture. But we have continuously some challenges, barriers, and we also developed some recommendations, because if we look at the global scale, still 80% of wastewater-borne resources are unused. And what we can get from it is thermal energy, we can get chemical energy, we can get nutrient, we can get recycled water, of course. And if we do not enough, we pollute groundwater, rivers and lakes and oceans, and it poses a threat to human health and biodiversity. And we have a potential for heating, cooling, power, biomethane, chemicals that have nicely been shown by the previous presentation from Madrid. So what we need is a transition from strategy, because strategy is essential as a starting point, but we need a framework, a regulatory framework that is compliant with the strategies. So circularity in the context of urban recovery will largely mean, nonetheless, recycling and use in rural environments, in the environment of the cities. So most of the nutrients, biopesticides, proteins that are recovered in urban environments will be recycled to rural use on cropland or as feed for animals. We need to improve the efficacy of our recycling and recovery and recycling activities. We need clear targets, efficient separate collection systems, and of course motivation of citizens. The EU strategies need to be covered by regulation, by incentives, by penalization, but compliance must be rewarded. We do not see much of rewards. For example, if we take the example from Madrid, Madrid is not getting rewards for saving CO2 emissions, for being circular. So we need to combine, from our point of view, the ETS, the EU emission trading system, where we have at least we have currently a price, we have a market. The price is currently about roughly 55 euros per ton of CO2 equivalent. So why not create a framework where the savings in CO2 emissions are being paid, compensated for those who save, and on the other hand, those who cause, who pollute, who create the emissions must pay for it. So the circular economy action plan is a very powerful instrument for the circular economy. And we, as a European Sustainable Phosphorus Platform, have just taken an initiative together with several other stakeholders to call or to propose end of waste criteria. So taking the example of the new fertilizing products regulation and provide more end of waste criteria for wastewater-based products, among them, for example, algae grown in wastewater, but also fibers, polymers, proteins, nutrients, of course, but nutrients, if used in agriculture, are already covered by the fertilizing products regulation. But of course, nutrients can have other uses beyond that. And our initiative has been joined by over 110 industry federations, companies, EU projects that have signed this joint letter to the Commission. And coming back to the idea of carbon credits for saved emissions. So, for example, if you like what you can do also in Madrid, you have a digester, you can strip nitrogen, you can produce ammonium sulfate or ammonium nitrate, and you can save up to 4 ton CO2 equivalents for every ton of N in a nitrogen, in a recycled nitrogen fertilizer. Again, this should be rewarded. So we need a level playing field for all actors, but emissions must get penalized and saving emissions must get rewarded. And one example in the field of nutrients that we have seen in recent years, Germany and Switzerland have published and enforced legislation by which you must recycle nutrients from wastewater, and in Switzerland also from slaughterhouse residues. So thank you. This was my short presentation, and I hope it raises a few questions, and we can discuss some of these proposals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ludwig, for your presentation. I think now we have this long session, and we could solve both the question that I think there is a question from Manuel Amador Cervera about your presentation about the food in order to be considered in the different regulations. But I think we could invite all the speakers to turn on the cameras and the microphones for this session to solve the questions we already have, and then some questions that if it is on time, I would like to make to you. So first, from Ludwig, Amador Manuel Cervera asked, in the European regulation 178/2002, the definition of food excludes plant products that have not been harvested yet. So he assumes all the losses related to that stage cannot be considered as food waste when accounting for it. Correct him if it is wrong. I'm not sure about this difference, so probably from your knowledge. And there is a huge amount of food waste occurring in that stage. The question is the European Union considering modifying this definition of food to include pre-harvest products on these value chains? Initially, the question is from Ludwig, but any of the speakers feel free. Silvia, Jose Luis, Julio, feel free to include your knowledge.
Well, maybe Silvia, do you have an answer to that question?
No, unfortunately not. Indeed,
I
find it very specific.
Yeah. I mean, what I can say, of course, I mean, I know the Commission and we are aware of the whole chain of losses that occur in the food chain, and the farm to fork strategy is exactly responding to this question. So we all actors try to respond to the food losses occurring in the whole food chain, farm to fork, and it includes input to farming and growing crops until the product arrives at your plate. And we all know that some, in terms of nutrients, for example, only 5% or 10% of the input arrive at your plate. But I think it is considered, it is taken into consideration. Unfortunately, and this is what I mentioned also during my presentation, when the Commission comes up with bold, good proposals, then all our agricultural ministers from the 27 member states that have just made during the last days are trying to water down everything that is on the table, and in the end, the effect is not the one that was initially intended. So this is our joint European problem, I would say. So I can only ask everybody who is listening to push your government to be more ambitious when it comes to proposals.
Great, Ludwig. Thank you for your answer. Let's continue with the remaining questions that we had from the presentation from the Madrid City Council. Jose Luis, a question from Pontus Risted. Have you looked at making biochar or bioplastic? There would probably be stronger markets for those products.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, we have been exploring several new techniques of dealing with waste, with not only with bio waste, but with all the streams of waste we have, because we have several streams of waste that are very challenging, to say it some way. And yes, but we didn't have but we didn't find this industrial scale process that could deal with an heterogeneous mixture of things, which is what we have in the domestic stream flows. So yes, we are considering the biochar. Yes, we are considering the bioplastics. That's why we are here in Excalibur. That's why we are following the purple. That's why we are also in Insectum trying to obtain this chitin as a building block for the cosmetic industry and those things, which I think that's a way it should be doing, at least in cities, because cities we don't have a market for the compost in itself. We produce our own compost from the green debris we produce in the gardens of the city, and that is enough for our gardens in the whole city. And having an objective, a goal of producing with this new facility I've explained, more than 35,000 tons of compost, of a high quality compost. I mean, where can we use these tons? Not in the city, because we can bury the city in 1 year with that quantity of compost. So I don't know if that's a way, but I think the ways to consider it, the ways to just re-ask the question again and try to find other ways that could make this management economically feasible, as we talked some minutes ago, and also to try to obtain products that the industry is demanding right now. So I don't know if I've answered the question.
No, for sure. I think it's clear that you consider these solutions, but at this moment you have the component for sure are interesting solutions. Since are products that are easier to make marketable in a city as Madrid, like the compost, with these gardening solutions you mentioned. So linked with this, this following question is linked with something you mentioned, the heterogeneous
composition,
nature of the composition of the stream of waste that we have. Martin from Cetemma, from Murcia, asks you, Jose Luis, how is your anaerobic digestion process dealing with the high presence of non-required, so inorganic materials you are getting in your organic bin? Why do you think that your compost is not getting attention? Is another question. So two different questions.
Sure.
Feel free to answer in.
Okay, the first one is clear. In the presentation, there is in the slide, there is the first slide is the process of the anaerobic digestion, and we have a pre-treatment, which is a sorting process. We have to deal with 20 to 22% of contamination, which means non-organic material inside the bin, and going deeper in this in the flow that or the quality of the material that this anaerobic digestion is receiving, we have to consider three main streams. One is the one that comes from big producers, which is high quality. It reaches 90 to 95% of organic. So it's a very, very, very small contamination in it. Then we have the supermarkets, which is also high. In the supermarket stream, we have to deal with the packaging, which the staff in the supermarkets, they do not unpack the food. So all the blisters, all the packages, this processed food we have, and if you go to the supermarket and you have a look at the aisles of the supermarket, you have several products. Everything is packed and several packed, with the 2-3 layers of different materials. So we have to deal with that. So and the managers at the supermarkets, they say, my people is not here to open the bags or to open these packages. So I'm sorry, guys. And we are considering the packer, which is a machine that also tries to shred this content. We also do that in the facility, but it's too much. deal with. So we are considering to grow in that part of the process to deal with this packaging. This is the second stream, and the third stream is the stream that comes from the domestic waste, which is the household waste, right? This is the most contaminated stream, which we deal with the 20 to 22% of contamination in that stream. And the contamination comes mainly from the plastic bags. They are using cardboard, also glass. Imagine these marmalade jars that you just throw away. Instead of cleaning it and just separate the lid for one side, the glass for the can for another, the glass can for another, and then the content into another fraction. So in that case, we also do a very, very concerned separation process in this pre-treatment part. And so in average, the contamination and the fraction enters, the biowaste enters with an average of 22% of contamination, and it gets out from this pre-treatment process as a result at an average of 5 to 7% of contamination. So in the end, we get into the digesters with a high quality organic material, but it's a challenge. And about the other question, why is the compost not getting attention? I love that question because we don't have an answer for that. I mean, the answer is clear because Madrid is a service sector, mainly service sector. We don't have an agricultural sector here. And the thing is that the compost has to travel several hundred kilometers to the point that it could be used. That puts a lot of money in each ton we produce. So we have to compete in a real market with high quality fertilizing products, very cheap, that comes from other sources and other production processes. And our product is not as good as the ones, is a good quality, but not as good as the ones that they do exist in the market, and also is expensive. So that could be an answer. But again, in my point of view, it's essential that we define this value chain, that the European Commission define this value chain. If it is needed, that we help this to boost, to try to use this effort we are doing, the cities are doing, trying to get the best out of the waste. Otherwise, this is nonsense. And we have to redirect our efforts to other ways of treatment, like the ones we have been talking, and like the ones the Scali was doing, the purple, I don't know, trying to find these building blocks for the industry, which they have a market, a certain market, and the market is very valuable, right? That is our vision, right, for the moment. So, but that doesn't mean we are not trying to do the effort, trying to compost this organic material to try to return it back to the earth, to the ground, right, which is the main objective of this Green Deal of the European Commission. That's why we're building this new facility to try to produce this compost. But I don't think that's the future, at least in big cities that don't have a certain agricultural market that can absorb this huge production of this compost coming from the organic part of the waste of the cities.
Okay, Jose Luis. So we will move on with the questions. We have several questions, but I would like to refocus the conversation onto the topic. We have some questions about the use of the black soldier flies and about more technical issues, but I would like to refocus the conversation on the topic of the webinar, which is the policy influence. And I think we have an interesting question from Dorit from BioBall, this innovation space in the metropolitan area of Frankfurt in Germany that she mentions. I think this could be a question from Sylvia. It's although the general legislation fosters the material use of bio-waste, it is oftentimes the nitty-gritty details of waste regulation which makes it difficult in practice. In particular, the non-existing, let's say, end of waste criteria make it difficult. Is the European Commission working on this conflict in the regulation? what do you feel if probably Sylvia or the people involved in this end of waste criteria, if you could give your impression about this topic?
About the end of waste, indeed, the criteria have been developed for few streams, very few streams, neither for plastic. So it's in principle should be up to member states to develop end of waste criteria and the European Commission to harmonize them. So indeed, it's kind of giving back to others this task. Whereas indeed we need harmonized rules. So it's really a kind of contradiction, say, but still I don't see so many efforts from member states to at least develop these end of waste criteria for the national regulations. So it's indeed something that we all want, and we are not delivering on that. So there is no big plan, but just the one that you know. These different roles of the national and European.
Yeah, if I may add one thing in the circular, and actually I'm not sure if it was the farm to fork strategy, but I think it was the circular economy action plan, most likely. At the end, there was a list of upcoming initiatives, and so for 2021 they talked about scoping the development of further EU-wide end of waste and byproduct criteria. Of course, it's the EU, as Sylvia said, it's up to the EU to find try to harmonize it, but a lot it's still on the shoulders of the member states. So a lot is expected from their side too.
Okay, so just to conclude, I have a few questions for you that probably we could be solved in 1 minute per each of you. So first, Sylvia, thank you for your contribution. I have a question. It's how is it forcing the deployment of the urban bioeconomy policies through Eurozone Europe, this new framework that we already started in 2021? And it's going to be the innovation and research program for the following 7 years. How is forcing the deployment of these new policies?
Indeed, there is a full destination dedicated to that, to governance. So how to include, say, governance innovation aspects, and on the other side, how to, say, embed innovative solutions into real governance of regions or even member states. And this destination has some parts dedicated, some topics, indeed, at the end, dedicated to the deployment of bioeconomy solutions. So I would say that, and also, of course, all the market issues that was described during the presentation, listened to, indeed, on the fact that we should also put in place market measures in order to support these innovative and sustainable solutions are more or less there. So indeed, from the research point of view, there is a lot of attention to that, to the deployment, the real deployment, in order to overcome the barriers due to high cost and low awareness or whatever. So there is something.
We will thank you, Sylvia. We will see that because the following 7 years we have a special framework with all these conclusions get from the Green Deal, the new Green Deal for the European Union, this next generation program that also has a very big impact for the green dimension. Continuing with my questions, I have another one for Giulio. And Giulio, if you could, in few words, which is the ultimate goal of Roots? Which actions will be implemented in concrete from this initiative that you created between the urban biowaste projects involved in the action?
So the first things we will do in the next months, it will be, of course, try to spread more the policy paper, our messages, our positions, and recommendations, so on. Then in autumn, we will dig deeper into other aspects which were included in our general work, but we wanted to devote it more attention to it, and of course come up with further recommendations. And of course from autumn, and also hoping to get back to normality and being able to meet people in person, we would like to start confronting more with the officials from the Commission, from also addressing members of the European Parliament, and hopefully organize a live event in Brussels next year to discuss generally the circular economy policies and the recommendations arising from the projects, because we sometimes, you don't have projects that live and die and do not have a full exploitation, or you don't know about the results. So we want to leave something from our projects. Some of the projects will end in 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. So we want to have our message sent to the institutions, and try to, in a way, to bring our influence or contribution, let's say, to this discussion.
Okay, Julio. So thank you for your answer. I think we have time for one more question. Probably I would like to make a question from Ludwig about the aims on the farm to fork strategy that propose, among others, a reduction of the nutrient loss by 50%, the use of pesticides on the 50%. There are different goals under this strategy. Do you think these goals are achievable? Do you think this goal supports the urban bioeconomy? So what's your opinion about this, the relation of these goals and the circular bioeconomy, and if these goals are achievable? Ludwig, can you hear us?
Yes. So I thought because the question was a question that I have raised. So I mean, this is one of these key challenges where to which I'm a bit pessimistic now, because we have the farm to fork strategy, and we have very ambitious goals there to be achieved by 2030. And then we have a common agricultural policy that is not compliant with the strategy from our point of view. So somehow, if I have a strategy and I have now the tools, so the common agricultural policy should be a tool set to achieve the goals that we have set in the farm to fork strategy. Unfortunately, after we have seen the agreements within the common agricultural policy trilogue, it doesn't look like we can achieve these goals because we missed the tool set. And we are now trying to find other tools. Maybe we get some tools from the emission trading system that can help to implement a meaningful farm to fork policy. But yeah, you see, this is one of the problems that I see why we do not make the progress that we could make. And if you allow, I have one question to Jose Luis. Is there a difference for the food retailers if they supply the bio-waste with packages or without packages? Probably not. They pay just the same if they separate it or not. So why don't we have a regulation that says, okay, if you don't unpack it, you pay more for it? I don't believe that the retailers would leave the cities that would implement, or the countries that would implement such legislation. I think this could be an easy fit. Just let them pay, or if they pay and you in the end do it from the city services. So okay, they pay more and you do the separation, but you have solved one of the problems that indeed, from my point of view, is a real problem for implementing the circular economy. If I have all these plastics in my digestate and in my compost that I hardly can separate, but I can easily separate before upstream.
Yeah, I agree completely, Ludwig, that unfortunately that is not a technical decision, it's a political decision.
Yeah.
So we have to wait for a brave politician to take part in that, and you know, but I agree completely. I think defining the value chain implies defining all the stakeholders of that chain. And citizens, including these food retailers and supermarkets and big producers, are in that chain. And they are also enforced by the municipal laws and all the administrative, national, regional, national, and directives, you know. But what you need is an infrastructure that could make this possible. Not only the infrastructure, but also the legal issues that have to go hand with hand with this infrastructure to make this possible. So that's why I say this is a political question and not a technical one, because if you ask the technicians, as you have, we say, yes, of course. Unfortunately, it's not in my hand, that answer. Thank you, Ludwig.
Okay, so I think this was the last question. We are completely out of time. That's a really good news that of the participation of the audience. Thank you all the speakers for your contributions. Thank you for the audience, and or apologize because we are out of time to solve all the questions. All the questions are interesting, but we are completely out of time. So that's all. Thank you all for your participation. Africa, if you would like to give us the last instructions about the webinar.
Okay, so well, thank you everyone, and thank you to all the speakers for their fantastic presentations. It has been a good event. Only thing for me to say is let's stay in touch. The projects that have been here are still active and are doing really interesting activities. So it would be great if you contact us if you have further questions or want to learn more. Follow our projects on social media and sign up for updates. All projects have social media accounts and Twitter and LinkedIn. So look for us and see what we do. And finally, if you want to know more, join the Hub Network of Cities and Regions. This is all for me to say. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Last second. Thank you very much for your attendance. Remember that all the audience, and remember that you have available not just this recording and the presentation, but the previous event ones available on the Hub project website and on YouTube. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.